I accept my fate. Visa rejects me again, partition reduced to a bedtime story. One woman jumps into a well. One man is sworn in as king. We read history. We learn nothing.
I heard the voices wandering the wave, in search of the one who seeks, and there a vision was conceived. Turn inward to see the first light of day through the leaves of a lopped tree.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to RawPods Creative Thought and Expression, hosted by Rawanee. This episode contains a selection of decolonization poetry that we have extracted from a recording of an event that we held in collaboration with SOAS, University of London, in May 2023.
Hi, my name is Shaheryar Mirza, and I'm going to be reciting 3 poems inspired by today's subject, which is decolonization of thought and identity. And for this, I've taken inspiration from my roots, Urdu-speaking roots, the stories of partition that I heard from my grandparents, and sociologically looking at how it's colonization basically sort of rooted itself in our national psyche, our behaviors, and I've used some examples, some metaphors in these poems to really touch on subjects such as our conditioning, our cross-border relations, the diaspora living abroad, and so forth. So I'm going to start with the first poem that really sort of juxtaposes Jasmine living in London, her immediate environment, and Yasmin, who's living in Nankana Sahib, and her challenges based on her environmental positioning. So, two sides of the same coin. Jasmine is aware of her effect on men. Surface intelligence, London Underground, traveling from one agency to the next, clinging on to her portfolio, a recent photo shoot, just another day on the tube, impassive faces, colder than the weather, Waterloo, Canary Wharf, iPods help kill the time, go now, this is your stop. Posters on the floor, urging you to save the environment. But there are bigger issues afoot, like paying the rent, or getting a textbook tan. Never been outside this island. Brexit played a hand. You're saving up for a spiritual journey, a remote retreat in incredible India. Free your worldly chakras, cleanse your soul in Bheti Ganga. You feel like a fortune, but you reel like loose change, a coin in constant circulation, totally spent. Yasmin cannot recall where she's been. Almost sunset in Nankana Sahib, the river Ravi sulks like a distant dream. Perhaps tomorrow she'll take a tonga to buy her favorite skin whitening cream. A room with no window, a house but not a home. No one to call on her door. Not even the local Majnu who can be heard reciting poetry under a shisham tree. His hands calloused from agriculture, his words sacred like his sorrow. She says a prayer at a local shrine, lights incense at the feet of her departed ones, with a hint of loss, a touch of envy. Soon the stars will be out, mocking her from above. No seeds to sprout and nurture precious love. Just how deep does the Ravi run? Maybe tomorrow she'll build the nerve to get it done. Another Jacob, another Yaqub, for every Aaron, a Harun, two lines drawn apart, destined to join, two sides of the same coin. My next poem is called History Has a Way of Making Us Pay, and I've used a metaphor of Visa and the MasterCard to really talk about some of our issues that are ongoing with India and doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. So, history has a way of making us pay. In India, they don't accept Visa, MasterCard only. Acceptance is lower, merchants have a clear preference. Credit history is poor. We were PayPals once, separated only by non-invasive neighboring walls. Instead of border fences, our narrative linear, so much easier. Not mangled up like steel mesh wire. Traditions send one to their grave, another to the pyre. History has a way of making us pay. In India, they don't accept visa. I've been everywhere from Sudan to Indonesia, But I can't visit my father's birthplace, my great grandfather's resting place, my mother's beloved town, my grandmother's old stomping ground. Lucknow is a dream to me now. Delhi does not feed my belly. One general turns to whiskey, another to jelly. History has a way of making us pay. In Pakistan, we don't accept Visa, MasterCard only. But the masters are changing faster than the chatter on the servants' lips. Boots on the ground, uniforms but no uniformity, unity of a unique variety. Elective officials, selective memory. On 14th August, everyone's a Pakistani. The principles of economics are funny. To prosper, you need an enemy. I come home with stamped passports only to see the breaking news on TV. The Indian Parliament is under attack by Lashkars of our own making. Now I Google Hawa Mahal in Jaipur while you YouTube Lahore from Amritsar. I accept my fate. Visa rejects me again, partition reduced to a bedtime story. One woman jumps into a well. One man is sworn in as king. We read history. We learn nothing. My next poem is called An Imperial Breakup, where I've used the concept of a breakup as a metaphor to talk about our colonial masters having left us back in 1947. So there's a lot of analogy there. So, she left me with the gift of tea, a spoonful of self-pity, heavily conflicted, caffeine addicted. I sip my Earl Grey, thinking of her charming ways, her regal air. I'm nobody's heir. But just for that one moment, a fleeting moment, she had me dreaming, worse, hoping. She validated me, vindicated me of my inherent crimes, my innate defects, my brown skin burning from centuries of duress. She ruled my world, my kingdoms on dry land and the seas, battle ready, ruthless in her flawless victories. She left me with the gift of cricket, taught me that whatever is broken can be fixed, even test matches. Left me with precision, but her wonders of construction eventually fell to ruin. Now her shadow follows me from east to west. I stand motionless, like a mannequin at Harrods, and I'm lost for words. Yes, the same words she once put in my mouth. English, Minglish, but nothing comes out. She left me with an inferiority complex, a worthlessness that can only be described as priceless. I have her texts. She has pieces of me, artifacts, relics in her not so private museum. It's shocking how quickly habits are formed, behaviors shaped, thoughts transformed, words replaced. Without you, I am barely me, half an identity. A sailor at bay, watching his reflection in the ocean, an empty shell done looking for the perfect wave, an idea that can't quite reach fruition, an algorithm designed to compound confusion. The mirror shows a face and nothing more. Inside my ivory tower, pale as your favorite flower, I rue your division, introduce a new partition to liven up my workspace. Lazy lines on a map, drawn to save face. She took whatever gifts I had from me. This much is clear. An occupier of my soul, a usurper of my strengths. I have very little left. Like a country colonized, I must force myself to rise again. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Qudsia. I'm a Manchester-based poet, and I just want to say thank you to Maniba for inviting me to come and read. I'm going to read some poems from Hamoshi, my debut collection, but before I do that, I'll read from my new sequence. I write a lot about British-Pakistani experience and the complexity surrounding that. So I'll just begin. So I want us to focus on the Indian Rebellion of 1857 in its various forms. It's known as a Sepoy Uprising, Sepoy Rebellion, and its controversial name as the Sepoy Mutiny. The rebellion consisted of the Indian members of the army known as Sepoys, who collectively defied the British rule, which in the end was suppressed. When I was researching the Indian Rebellion, I came across the story of a certain sepoy named Alam Beg, whose skull was kept as a trophy and discovered in Mr. and Mrs. Mantle's pub in Warmer, Kent. The trophy skull was then handed over to historian Kim A. Wagner, who has tried to piece together the life of Beg and to find some way to pay homage to the man himself. So my sequence is based on this discovery of the skull. So this is a quote. So how hard is it for countries and citizens to embrace the truth rather than the national myth? 6. The voices are enclosed in the eye of the well. I lower the knotted rope, the darkness churns. It is here the shadows appear amongst the bare bones of buildings, this forgotten scape, crushed by constant killing. At the core of the gunpowder, the shells, the fumes of buildings, the letters of revolt, the signals are the dead. I heard the voices wandering the wave in search of the one who seeks, and there a vision was conceived. Turn inward to see the first light of day through the leaves of a lopped tree. I grip the rope and pull. The executions erased the threat, the struggle and stories of these sepoys scattered in nameless pieces. To believe in the oneness of experience is to simplify the tensions of history. The voice rises from the well. I didn't know where I was coming from until I arrived. I raised the water-filled bucket. What do I need to know? I, an enactment of violence, a historical silence. Across the well, I see his hands rest on the stone, white trousers, a red coat, a code attached to the front, 3 stripes on shoulder. He has a name, Alam Beg. I didn't know where I was coming from until I arrived, thinking of in it. 8. Before Beg's teeth were sinking in Mrs. Mantle's palm, before he became a national spectacle of colonial cruelty versus Victorian victory, he was a man. And so was every sepoy before he became an ashtray. I follow the red-coated figure down to his chamber. Where have I arrived? The bugle sounds, he wakes an instructor of the school of musketry. He will return in chains, within him an unmappable wilderness. These self-restrained hillmen, like the tigers of their own jungles, are locked in the British imagination. They refused the percussion caps for their muskets, the torched buildings like secret notes. They witnessed the fang of the flame, Pandy's roped neck, half charge of gunpowder, a heavy barrel. I let go of the rope and watch the bucket fall. Nothing ever begins. Everything contained floats to the forefront of the wave. Families, honor, status, hair, skin, tongue, bloody neck. These thugs thirst for European blood. Fire. Fragments materialize in the air. A spine, legs with coiled skin, bodies in eternal unrest. Beg's arms and legs tied to the wheel of the gun under the sun. How many fibers are twisted to create the rope? Fire. Beg holds his breath. So that's from my new sequence that I'm currently working on, which is, it's quite cruel what happened. But my debut collection is just mapping British Pakistani experience in terms of female experience and the partition. So I'm going to read some poems. I think some of these experiences are very true to what I've witnessed myself. And I'll read the first poem, which is about a friend of mine who ran away from home aged 17. And I'm sure we're all aware that the community likes to talk after a scandal occurs. And I guess this poem is just about the aftermath of that experience. So it's called Erased. She is a cautionary tale of the feminine curse. People read her like Braille and spit out the words and fill in the blanks with her name alongside countless women who made the same mistake. They quote God and mourn, for a female's rash choice is her own, and a mother should feel the emptiness in her womb because she raised a sin. Her name rests on tongues that only know her cursed infamy. Her name rests on her mother's shelf like a trophy of shame. But I remember the day your bedroom door would not open and your mum came to find us trapped, crying on the floor. This one's called Migration of Sorrow, which is about the partition. In me, there is a migration song, replaying its refrain of sorrow. For a signature split the land, searing the tongues of many. A migration song of swarming massacres, camps, genocides, of colonial and ethnic legacies, a parting of body and mind. Bloodshed bodies borders, borders bodies bloodshed. A man wakes his wife, weds gold to her wrist and runs, hiding in a field, homeless, hopeless, uncertain of the future, a raw, grainy, undeveloped film. Lahore train station, crowded and confused, multitudes lost in search of an idea of home. Parents unable to fend, to feed. They feel the thumping hearts of their children. This great migration, a clouded sun, it takes and takes and takes every light that speaks human, speaks life. Their innocence left in the old world, the life before in distant dreams, the life before the bloody streams. Just one more? Sure. Yeah, I'll end on a Seeker's Guzzle because it's a celebration poem and it's a bit more light in tone. So a Seeker's Guzzle. Let me sew smooth webs for you always, to trap your love, suck your blood always. Stoned from floating fantasies, I drink from your boundless, fruitful flood always. Let me beat the daff, feel the echo of the eastern mountains thud always. For your hope holds the sun's intensity, nurtures my small divine bud always. I dance naked in fiery deserts to the holy song you hummed always, of starless nights, drunken daffs, and my Qudsia's lust for the blessed flood always. Thank you.